Welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. It's titled Mulesoft, the next big data integration thing. All right, welcome to you all. So just some quick housekeeping items here. Of course, we welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. And I would like to ask that you would please raise your hand if you can hear my voice. All right, good. We've got quite a few on the call. Thanks everybody for joining. Great. Okay, good. So everybody can hear me. Good. So we're going to go ahead and start. Now, you are, of course, welcome to ask questions during the presentation, but I will, of course, set aside about 15 minutes at the end of class where everybody can ask questions then as well. Okay. We will be recording this audio and it will be published shortly. So let's go ahead and get started. So Mulesoft, the next big data integration thing. So what are we talking about here? Why is Mulesoft the next big data integration thing? So let's talk about it. So first of all, what I want to assert to you is that point-to-point integrations, point-to-point data integrations are in fact, yes they are bad for you. Okay, so we're going to actually put forward a much better pattern for data integration. It's called API-led connectivity, and this is what we call data integration done right. Why done right? Well, it's because you are able to more easily and readily reuse APIs and then therefore reuse data integrations. So I want to explain exactly how that's going to be done and how you can actually set up a series of APIs to be more easily reused. And that's really the key. So the more you can reuse your APIs, the more value you're going to get out of them. Now, what's also implied in this API-led connectivity idea is the idea that APIs are easily discoverable. They're easily discovered by people in your organization and easily used and easily set up so that people in your organization can find the APIs that they want to use and self-serve. So this is going to save a lot of time and startup costs for not only businesses but projects. Think about the expense of chartering a project. Well, with API-led connectivity, with APIs that are discoverable, with APIs for which you can self-serve and quickly learn how to use and self-serve and get the data that you need quickly, this is going to save a lot of costs in project costs. All right, more about that to come. But with API-led connectivity, you'll be able to create an application network. Now, an application network is a series of categorized APIs that's going to maximize the reusability of those APIs. I'll explain exactly what that means, but the net result of that is going to be that you'll be able to rapidly innovate your organization, rapidly create data integrations, and rapidly roll out new solutions. Very powerful pattern here. We're going to give that some time as well. And we're also going to talk about Mulesoft as a company. I'll give a little bit of a history of the company, where the company is positioned presently, what its strategic vision is. And in addition to that, we are going to, of course, talk about training. This is what we are all about here at WebAge. But the training is going to help you to avoid some of the commonest pitfalls of Mulesoft, maximizing your return on investment in Mulesoft. So without the key concepts, without knowledge of some key concepts, especially with regards to API-led connectivity, your organizations may typically, and actually this is quite common, organizations will actually use Mulesoft, but they'll simply use it as a simple point-to-point data integration tool. Now, it can be used that way, and it's very good at doing such things, but really that's not the real value of Mulesoft. That's not really using it to its fullest potential. Quite frankly, there are quite a few tools out there on the market that will do data integration point-to-point quite well. Mulesoft is one of them, of course, but the real beauty of Mulesoft is really the completeness of vision with regards to API-led connectivity that is going to result in reuse of APIs, which is going to drive down the costs of data integration with time. Okay, let's go and dig into the material. Let's think about what is it that we're trying to do when we're integrating data. Well, ultimately, we've got people in our business that are decision makers that need to see the data. They are data hungry apps, web apps, and we really need to get the key data in front of our audiences so that they can make the best decisions for our business. So that data resides in many different back-end systems. Data warehouses, mainframes, SaaS applications, communications apps, and so on, CRM apps, ERP apps, and really the list goes on. But all of that data needs to get in the right way. It needs to get into our audiences so they can make the best decisions for our business. Really, that's sort of foundational, right? But how do we get that data in front of our audiences? Well, let's think about how a company would typically unfold such a thing. They need to get the data, they need to integrate the data, and then to get that data in front of their audiences. So what are they going to typically do? Well, without a clearly defined strategy for delivering that data to the audiences, the result is going to be, say, a mixture of suboptimal solutions. And by less than optimal, I mean the solutions might not include any reusable components. They might not comply with governance or architecture standards. They may not be easily managed. And they're very, very likely more costly than they really need to be. So perhaps we would synchronize data across back-end systems using various means, such as a database connection or file transfers. Yet for another integration, we might create, say, a web service to get data in front of our key actors, our employees, our partners. We might also orchestrate tightly coupled solutions that integrate just a few systems, okay? But without a clearly defined strategy, we're going to really likely end up with just a bunch of half-witted solutions, which makes it difficult to keep up with and meet our business demands, especially in businesses that rapidly innovate. So how do we keep our businesses really competitive? Well, doing these point-to-point integrations is not really the way to do that. They are going to end up being much more costly. And so point-to-point integrations is what we really want to rid ourselves of. This is what we want to prevent, and this is actually what Mulesoft solves. So let's talk about how they're going to solve that. Now, again, I mentioned that Mulesoft is a great data integration tool, but really the vision for Mulesoft is to use API-led connectivity. Let's talk about what that might be. So let's start with our back-end systems. Let's just say that we have various CRM systems, order management systems, various data systems, shipping systems perhaps. So the idea of API-led connectivity, everyone, is that we create, as I mentioned before, a series of categorized APIs. And let's start with an API. Let's just say this here is an API. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create an API for each of our back-end systems. And these APIs will do simply one thing. They'll interface with these back-end systems doing reads of data, they'll insert data, they'll update and delete data, of course, but they just do one job. They talk to those back-end systems. Now, let's talk about what these APIs are. First of all, application programming interfaces. Well, these are going to be RESTful web services that are normally going to communicate over HTTP, actually HTTPS, and use, say, JSON formatted data, but they're going to be stateless as well. So they're going to be very decentralized, and they're going to be, as I mentioned, RESTful. So let's go ahead and continue on here. Let's just say that we can add some more systems to our context. Well, we're going to go ahead and add some more system APIs as well. Now these, there we are, the system APIs, they do just one job, but this is going to be one of 3 different categories of APIs that will allow us to maximize our reusability. And this really, if you think about it, is using object-oriented principles, a lot of reuse. Let's talk about this next layer of APIs here. We're going to create APIs that integrate those system APIs. Perhaps these APIs will also enforce certain business rules, but we're going to call these our process APIs. Now, some quick words about the process APIs. Process APIs really are the foundation of what we call an application network. And what we're describing here is API-led connectivity that will help us to create an application network, which is a series of categorized APIs that maximize reusability. There's a lot more to it, but this application network is going to allow us to be much more flexible within our system to interchange systems, and not only to interchange backend systems, but also, of course, to reuse, as I keep mentioning, these APIs over and over again. But these process APIs, in many circumstances, these are going to resemble the business domain model. So they're going to look like your business domain. They're going to look like business objects, if you will. And they're going to manage a certain domain or a certain area of the business, again, like business objects do. For example, here's one that stands out. Perhaps we have a process API that will be all things shipping, right? So as you can see here, it would reach out to our backend systems. Perhaps these are remote APIs. UPS, of course, is a remote API. FedEx, same thing, in which we have system APIs that are going to reach out to them. But this one process API will be the single go-to system to get shipping information on any order that we send, regardless of who ships it. Now, that's one example, right? Let's just say that we have other types of systems as well. Let's just say that we have CRM systems and we have ordering systems, but we have a process API here that's going to contain data for both of these, right? So it's going to return information about customers, key information about customers, and about their orders. And this could be used perhaps to service many different front-end sales applications. So the process APIs really are a key foundational type of API that we would create for our organization. All right, now let's continue on. Let's talk about the actors that use the front-end systems here. So for each front-end system, whether it's a web app or a mobile app, or even reports, or any kind of application or any kind of system on the front end, what we could do, or any kind of requesting system even, so any system that would want to initiate communication with our application network, we could create another category of API here called the Experience API. Okay. Now these are going to, again, interface with the systems that our actors interface with. And they're going to provide very, very specific functionality for very specific front-end systems. So as you can see here, they're going to leverage the process APIs, which are leveraging the back-end system APIs. And by taking this kind of disciplined approach and not sort of succumbing to the temptation of doing point-to-point integrations, in this way, we're going to much more easily manage our entire application network, manage our APIs, manage the reusability. Now, a quick couple words here about this. Each one of these little nodes that you can see is its own RESTful web service. Each one of them could have one or more endpoints that returns data or posts data, deletes data, updates data, or what have you. But each one of these APIs will be managed all by themselves in their own little containers, and will actually have their own security standards. Mulesoft comes right out of the box with great security features. You can, with a tool called the API Manager, apply proxies and policies to each one of these APIs that'll actually help secure them, and not only secure the APIs, but also control who has access to them and how often they can use the APIs, what are the policies, the rate limiting. You can apply rate limiting, for example, and you can also collect analytics with that tool as well. So that would be all that would be applied to each one of the APIs in this application network. Okay, but like I said, the process APIs really are the foundation of your entire application network. Now, to get into another powerful example of what we're talking about here, let's use this example. Let's just say, well, I want you to imagine for just a moment, how many back-end systems have customer data? Let's think about this for a second. How many of the systems in your enterprise have customer data in them in one way or another? Maybe think about this. Web site, web application, log files, would they have application data? Communications systems, would they have customer data? CRM systems, order systems, even social network systems. Okay, so lots of different ways to glean data about your customers on the back end. So I want you to think about this pattern for just a moment, and this alone could very easily justify your investment in Mulesoft. If you can get this kind of data or information about your customer, you would have a very powerful thing. We want to really make sure that our customers feel special, and the way to do that is make sure that we have plenty of data on them so that we know how to best service them, right? So this idea here is called the single view of the customer. It's a process API, one of perhaps many, but the single view of the customer is going to collect lots of different customer data from lots of different back-end systems. And it's going to make that data available in one process API so that no matter what or how many front-end data systems are looking for customer data, they're going to have a single source to get that up-to-date customer data. Again, I want to say it again because I think it's worth repeating. This alone could very easily justify the investment in API-led connectivity and in Mulesoft. All right, well, I keep saying API-led connectivity, but let's ask the question, who uses API-led connectivity? Many companies out there now are getting on the bandwagon with regards to API-led connectivity, seeing the value of reusing API assets, reusing them over and over again, making them discoverable, making them, setting them up to self-serve, in other words, so that teams and developers in your organization and developers in your partners' organizations can easily find these APIs and figure out quickly how to use them all on their own. So, take a look at some of the companies here. Now, these are innovative companies and a lot more, of course. This is just a very small subset, but they're using this pattern with great effectiveness, such that you're going to see this in a couple more slides here. I'm going to show you the size of the data integration market and how it is expected to grow. And it's expected to grow quite well. Everybody who does data integration work is really pleased by that, right? But the API management market, which includes API-led connectivity, is going to be a small subsection of that data integration market, and that's going to quickly outpace even the pace of growth, the rate of growth for data integration. So the API management is growing, but it's growing at a faster rate than data integration as a whole. So that what that means is, of all the data integration applications out there, many of them are going to API-led connectivity with API management. So that's very interesting. You'll see that more here coming up. So these are the companies that, or some of the companies, very few of the companies actually that use this. Some of the most innovative companies are using this with great success. But Mulesoft offers a tool that is a toolbox of all things API management. It's called, as you can see here, AnyPoint Platform. Now let's think about this for just a moment. We've got a big list here, right? Think about everything that you would need to do to design, develop, deploy, and manage, and secure, of course, a data integration application, and namely an API. I want you to think about all the steps, including setting up security, setting up analytics, including making such an API discoverable, including having a searchable library of assets of APIs so that people can find the APIs. And I want you to think about all the tools that would be needed for such an endeavor. And I want to let you know that Mulesoft's AnyPoint Platform has a tool that'll help you do it. So the entire life cycle. Everything from the design tools, including graphical design tools, very attractive portals, API portals that allow people to see information about APIs, documentation on APIs, and also the ability to test APIs right there from within the portal. This is a cool library in AnyPoint Platform called AnyPoint Platform Exchange. And AnyPoint Platform Exchange is this nice library of API assets that allow users to quickly find APIs and self-serve to get to not only learn how to use those APIs, but to use them over and over again. Okay, but all the tools that you need, monitoring. What about deploying, right? So for those of you that would prefer to manage your own applications on your own data centers, on your own hosts, either physical host or even virtual hosts in the cloud, Mulesoft has got a solution for you. So you can deploy these APIs, what we call on-prem, or you could deploy them to your own cloud, or you could use Mulesoft's cloud solution, which is called Cloud Hub. All right, so some great solutions there for deploying APIs and managing them. There is an Eclipse-based IDE, this integrated development environment, which allows developers to actually create Mulesoft applications very, very rapidly. There are even tools within Mulesoft that allow you to import a design of an API, which by the way is done in a tool called RAML, or RESTful API Modeling Language. Once that API is designed, it can be quickly imported into AnyPoint Studio using a tool called the API Kit. The design is quickly transformed into code, which becomes the interface for an API. So what that means is a lot of the coding is done for you automatically, which is really, really nice. And then all the developer has to do is concern himself with developing the integration logic. So a lot of the commonest tasks that a developer would have to do for designing and developing APIs and even deploying APIs, that's already been abstracted. Mulesoft has tools that are doing that already, so that the developer can spend much less time actually developing code, which is obviously the key here. So anything you can do to drive down costs of APIs and to drive up quality and the ability to innovate, that's what we're going to do. So again, very complete vision here. They've got a great suite of products that will do anything from end to end with regards to API development, from the design to the deployment and management. There's a tool for that. Okay. All right, so next slide here. Let's talk a little bit about Mulesoft as a company. It is, or it was, a publicly traded company before it was purchased. Now, it went public in early 2017, ticker symbol Mule, but it was purchased in March 2018 by Salesforce for a whopping 6.5 billion, as you can see here. Now, what's the running joke, of course, is that Salesforce bought a mule, but they paid for a racehorse, I guess. I don't know, but quite a hefty chunk of change there. So you can see that Salesforce sees the value of Mulesoft's offering and has invested some serious money into it. The premier product for Mulesoft is AnyPoint Platform. It is that toolbox of all the tools needed, like I mentioned, to full lifecycle development of APIs, right? Yeah, full lifecycle development of APIs and complete solution for API management, including security, including analytics. Now, the real value add here is that Mulesoft provides these tools that allow data integrations to be rapidly developed and deployed. And this is going to really accelerate innovation within your organization to do these data integrations. Now, a couple more words on that, because I've been in the industry quite a long time as a consultant. 22 years as an IT consultant, a solution architect, and a lot of money is spent on data integration, such that the common pattern that I see is that really data integrations are, because they're point-to-point integrations, they're treated as their own application, and there's not a lot of governance over them. But with Mulesoft and API-led connectivity and API management within these tools, this allows us to standardize all the governance for APIs, for data integration, and allows us to drive costs down with time greatly by standardizing everything from security to deployments to even integration patterns. And with the reuse of APIs, it drives costs down even further. So great tool. I think I'm in a good place here as an architect for Mulesoft, and it's a great place to be. So lots of big expectations for what Mulesoft is going to provide here in the future. API-led connectivity, like I mentioned. Now, Mulesoft's capabilities are, of course, within data integration, but you can also create, now this is a dated pattern, but it's still a valid one. It's enterprise service buses, right? Although I'm going to recommend that you not go that route, especially for new development. Really, we're going to recommend that you stay with Mulesoft's doctrine, which is the creation of API application networks, which again is that series of categorized APIs, system APIs, process APIs, experience APIs. All right, so Mulesoft does microservices development and API development for the development of application networks. So Mulesoft has quite a bit of really good tools, quite a hefty set of capabilities here as well. Now, Mulesoft does, of course, have many competitive advantages, namely the ability to create these application networks and the ESBs. Now, another point here is that Mulesoft does not force any design constraints on you. So if you want to create an application network, you're going to get a lot of good return on that investment if you do it, but it's not going to force you to do it. You can create point-to-point integrations. You can create batch processes. You can create ETLs, and Mulesoft is a great tool for ETL design patterns. There are tools within Mulesoft that allow you to schedule jobs to happen, for example. It's also very, very highly scalable. You can deploy to a variety of topologies. You can deploy both on-prem and in the cloud in a hybrid type of deployment. You can deploy to organizations that have many different kinds of systems. Now, Mulesoft comes with really a whole host, more than 100 connectors. Now, connectors are going to be these nice packages of code that developers can easily put into what we call Mulesoft flows that allows them to connect very, very quickly to virtually any back-end data system that you can think of. SaaS applications, databases, CRM systems, ERP systems, files, queues. There's even of course, there's an HTTP. There are HTTP connectors. There are JMS connectors. There are IP connectors, UDP connectors for different types of connectors for protocols, and so on. And the list goes on. This is going to make Mulesoft, again, this is going to drive down the cost of deployment because your developers don't have to spend time creating code to connect to those back-end systems. All right, huge competitive advantages with that. All right, so not a lot of time needs to be spent on writing that code. Very helpful. Now, what does Gartner think about Mulesoft? We're going to take a look at a couple magic quadrants from Gartner, because I think this is very interesting. The first one is going to be from, let's see here, it is October 2016, and if you know anything about the magic quadrant here, this is the ability to execute as a function of completeness of vision, right? So really, if you're in this market, you're playing in this market, you want to be in this first quadrant here, this upper right-hand quadrant. And as you can see, Mulesoft is very well positioned amongst its competitors and peers as a market leader. Now, that is an impressive thing in my estimation, especially given Mulesoft's age. It was founded in 2006, which I'll talk about, but they've done a great job of being well positioned in this market. All right, so the ability to execute, their completeness of vision, very impressive numbers here. Now, that's 2016, from October 2016. Let's get something that's a little bit more up to date. Now, this quadrant here, this is an updated quadrant from April 2018, 1 month after the sale to Salesforce. Now, you can imagine, therefore, that this quadrant, or this this diagram, was created using data that, of course, pre-existed or predated that acquisition. Okay, I am curious to know how, let's say over the next few months here, when we see another report from Gartner, how is Gartner going to position Mulesoft on this graph here after that acquisition? So I think they're doing a great job, and we're looking for some very good things for them in the future with the funding and the support from Salesforce. All right, next here, let's talk a little bit about Mulesoft's competitors, because as you saw in the quadrant there, there's some good competitors out there as well. So Mulesoft is out there. By the way, they did about $300 million in 2017. Tibco, now Tibco is a older technology, and actually Mulesoft is really eating into Tibco's market share. So Tibco has been more on the decline. Mulesoft and others have been more on the ascent, but they did good business. 2017, $1 billion almost, and they are great with the middleware and the data integration and so on. So they've got a great tool for service-oriented architecture, but really not with the vision of API management and API-led connectivity that Mulesoft and others are showing. Now, Apogee, as you can see, Apogee was positioned really well on the Magic Quadrant as well. They're out there. They did about 100 million in 2017, but they're on the ascent. And also, as they were purchased by Google in 2016, we're expecting big things from them as well in the future. Okay. There's also CA Technologies, which, although they don't do only API development, they also do security and some other very cool technologies. But we're not really able to differentiate where the data integration sales were in this number. They did $4 billion in sales in 2017. I'm not sure how much of that actually came from data integration and API management. All right, but there you go. There's some of the competitors that Mulesoft has. Well, let's talk briefly about Mulesoft's history as a company. They were founded, as I mentioned, in 2016 by Ross Mason and Dave Rosenberg. And since then, Mulesoft has experienced really healthy revenue growth, especially in the years leading up to the acquisition. And the rumor on the street is from the friends I have at Mulesoft that really sales are exploding as the result of this acquisition by Salesforce. So much that Salesforce is having to put on the brakes a little bit. And many customers that use Salesforce do not yet use Mulesoft. So there's huge untapped pool of clientele, potential clientele out there for Mulesoft. Okay, so its headquarters are, by the way, in San Francisco in California. Let's take a look at its quickly at its revenues over the last few years. And as you can see here, since 2014, every year Mulesoft has experienced on average about, I think it's 85% revenue growth every year. So that's a pretty good, healthy growth in revenue annually. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about market size. Let's talk about what that means here. First of all, let's take a look. API management. Now this is an interesting number here. In 2016, API management alone is just a small subsection of the overall data integration market, but it was worth 600 million, all right, in 2016. Now in 2021, that's expected to grow to almost 3 billion. Now notice the compound annual rate of growth, 34.4%. Now that, again, this is a subset of the data integration market, which is quite a bit larger, almost by an order of magnitude there. So the large market there, but notice the rate of growth, 13.7 is still a healthy rate of growth there. But notice that API management is greatly outpacing that rate of growth. So we're expecting much more data integration to actually go over to API management in the years to come. All right, so that means that Mulesoft and tools like it are really well positioned. Mulesoft's value proposition, data integration for internal systems, even SaaS applications. Of course, we talked about API strategy, creation of the API network. Okay, now with data integration, and remember fundamentally, Mulesoft offers a data integration tool. Remember, it interconnects an organization's internal systems and external systems. And this includes software as a service applications, SaaS applications. So there are, for example, connectors within Mulesoft suite of tools for Salesforce. There's a Salesforce connector. There's a Hadoop connector, and the list goes on, right? Workday. So I would encourage you to have a look at mulesoft.com/exchange. That's mulesoft.com/exchange for a list of all the connectors that Mulesoft offers. Now, as far as API strategy goes, now service-oriented architecture and the creation of microservices, it's delivered an abundance of value to companies that have implemented it, of course, over the years. Now, Mulesoft's API, the flavor of microservices, really is that I think the next innovative step in this architecture, allowing organizations to build organic APIs from the bottom up, meaning the Mulesoft suite of tools, known as AnyPoint Platform again, is really tuned and it's designed to help organizations quickly build these reusable APIs in response to rapidly emerging business requirements. So again, this is part of Mulesoft's value proposition. And again, the goal here is to create this application network to build to rapidly build these reusable APIs that are placed into these nice, tidy, and reusable categories. System, process, experience APIs, which once delivered create this application network of APIs, as I keep mentioning. Now, Mulesoft has been really emphasizing the term application network. So it's really a term that they get out in the marketing very well because it describes a series, these categorized APIs really well, that allows a business to rapidly adjust to new business requirements. So for example, therefore, if an integrated system changes or is replaced, the application network is able to flexibly adjust to that new system with relatively little effort. Just add a system API, adjust your process API to accommodate, and you're in business. So you've got data in your application network for that from that new application that you've deployed. So the application network is really exquisitely built for change. That is what makes the pattern so powerful. Mulesoft, of course, also offers, as I mentioned before, this cloud solution. Now, Mulesoft offers this solution called Cloud Hub, which allows for the deployment of APIs to the cloud. And of course, this is going to eliminate the need for costly hardware and maintenance. And there's also, right out of the box, a feature called Virtual Private Cloud, or VPC, which will allow you to deploy your applications to a secure private network in the cloud, which is not accessible from outside the internet, unless of course you make it so. So it's another added security feature. So very, very nice out of the box feature there. And also remember that with all these tools, you'll have not only out of the box security, by the way, Mulesoft does offer enterprise security, which manages attack prevention and identity management. And Mulesoft also makes it easy to deploy API proxies, which enforce the security policies for each API, as I mentioned. But again, another one of the big value propositions here is speed to market. So by abstracting many of the most common coding tasks, Mulesoft's AnyPoint platform allows organizations to rapidly innovate and quickly deploy data integration and API solutions, responding to emerging business requirements with speed and agility. So they do a great job at these. This is why we're going to put that list together for their value proposition. Now, how do you maximize the return on investment in Mulesoft? Well, without a doubt, you've got to get the training. That's my personal opinion as an architect for Mulesoft. The training is really without equal because although your developers, if you were to put developers on a Mulesoft project, what you probably would do is get some Java developers or developers from some other technology and then put them in front of Mulesoft and say, hey, learn this and create some data integrations. But what's going to happen is without the training, without the knowledge of the vision, then the developer is going to quickly resort to creating point-to-point integration, which is really not going to help you achieve the best return on investment in Mulesoft. A lot of tools out there do point-to-point integrations just fine, but what we really want the developers to do, what you really want them to do for your business, is to create these application networks, these categorized APIs that will be reusable, discoverable, and easily self-served. Okay, developers can find them and use them on their own, and to use the tools to their fullest potential. And the training will help them do that. Think about this also. When, for example, Java developers are placed onto Mulesoft projects, and I know this firsthand because I've been on plenty of Mulesoft projects, and I've come into the middle of them in some cases to try to rescue them. And what has happened is, without a lot of thought and under the demands of projects and timelines, Java developers will resort to creating Java code in their Mulesoft projects instead of actually using Mulesoft to its fullest potential. So what ends up happening is they'll spend many times much more time writing the Java code than they could have just if they had just actually known the tool a little bit better and used the tools within Mulesoft to the fullest potential. They could have really cut the design and development costs really tremendously by knowing the tool before they actually do this. So let me just encourage you, if you're thinking about investing in Mulesoft, definitely invest in the training. It's going to really pay off and pay huge dividends for you. So WebAge does offer such training. I'm sure you were wondering if we do, and the answer is yes, we do. So as of now, we're pleased to announce that we do offer the training. We're offering what we call a QuickStart for developers, which is a 5-day instructor-led class that teaches API-led connectivity. It'll teach you the full life cycle of an API development, from design to development to deployment and security. And we'll also teach you some really cool tricks with regards to getting applications deployed quickly, and even some tricks in there to help you save money on some licenses from Mulesoft. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that from WebAge here. We also do offer online. Now I like this option. Not sure why, but we get a lot of demand for the instructor-led classes. But I think this next option is really a good one, an innovative one. Tell me if you don't agree here. This next one is, it's self-paced. We have self-paced classes online, so your folks or you can actually watch the classes online. You can study along. You can actually follow along and learn the product with hands-on demos that these videos will lead you through. But there's also, it's augmented with what we call instructor office hours, and this is time every week that your folks can actually log in to a WebEx session and interact live with a Mulesoft instructor. Get questions answered on the course materials. They get advice about developing Mulesoft applications. So really, it's an invaluable. So we think it's an invaluable tool in my estimation. So this is going to, I think, really allow you to get the best of both worlds. It'll allow you to not take your developers off their projects and not really pull them off all at once and put them into a dedicated training class, and really allow them to manage their time more effectively, still get the knowledge, and still have access to an instructor during the office hours. Okay, so please consider that. Now, also we do offer an API design class. Now that's what we offer now, but coming soon, we will have architecture classes as well. We're also going to have a certificate program. Now please note, this is not a certification for Mulesoft, but in a lot of ways it's better, because what we are getting is demand for hands-on experience and hands-on training, and the ability to actually demonstrate that a developer, once he's taken our classes, really knows his stuff. So with the certificate program, this will allow certificate candidates to prove their mastery of API-led connectivity, because they're going to build, now get this, an actual API-led connectivity application network. They're going to build system APIs, process APIs, experience APIs. They're going to secure them. Now don't get me wrong, it's not a huge project, but it allows them to prove their mastery of the material. They'll secure that, they will deploy it, they will manage it, they'll set up analytics, and they have to meet quite a few stringent criteria in order to get a certificate from us. So that program is out there as well, and that again is going to allow you to know for certain that a person who has achieved this certificate knows what he's doing. The application network that the certificate candidates will create will be reviewed by the instructors before a certificate is given. All right, so it's nothing there is automated. It's all pretty hands-on. Okay, so we're really excited about that. By the way, we do have some upcoming learning opportunities on January 28th. Just a few weeks from now, we're going to have a 5-day instructor-led online public course. They're just now announcing this. We have 12 seats available, and you can sign up for that. And I'll give you the website address here in just a moment. But we also offer private and tailored classes. Now, please contact us for information on that. And again, of course, there is the online self-paced instructor-supported content as well, which will allow you to help your folks really manage their time much more effectively instead of going into a dedicated 5-day class. Okay, now the Mulesoft QuickStart for Developers class is, it contains these topics, okay? So we're going to go through a quick intro. We're going to talk about an architectural overview so that people understand what we're getting at, understand API-led connectivity and its principles. We're going to spend some time learning the tools, installing the tools, and also we're going to create a Mulesoft application in AnyPoint Studio, AnyPoint Studio again being Mulesoft's development IDE. Now we're going to quickly move through modules here that's going to keep a developer's attention by allowing him to create something very, very quickly. He's going to create an application which will request data from a RESTful web service, transform that data, and we're also going to teach him how to debug Mulesoft applications. And in the subsequent modules, we're going to then learn how to deploy applications, and then we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to say, look, we're going to help you to design the API and get that design right, test the design of that API, and then build that API. And done right, the developer will need to build it really just one time instead of going back and rebuilding it with every new requirement or every new design change. So we'll show them some techniques to really cut the cost of development. We'll also demonstrate AnyPoint Platform Exchange and show the developers how to create documentation on APIs in Exchange, make those APIs discoverable so they'll become masters of this nice API asset library called AnyPoint Platform Exchange. The API kit allows us to, as I mentioned before, really cut the costs of development and the time to develop it. So that they really want to know that. Really important to take the training, in my estimation, even just to get that information. Because if you can cut time coding, that's really valuable in my view. Create proxies, and then of course some different modules in here about the details of development, including data transformation. So Data Weave is Mulesoft's data transformation tool, and we've got some good course material on that as well to get them going. Okay, so that's the end of the webinar. Thank you all for joining. We're going to take some questions now. So I'll go ahead and give you an opportunity to ask some questions either over chat or over the mic. But if you're leaving us now, I wish you a great day, and thanks for joining us.